Hello everyone, welcome back to the show. My name is Dan. This is, as always, Exploder, and I'm here to talk about things that happened recently in professional wrestling. Let's, of course, first start talking about Takeover. Takeover, of course, comes in every few months. It's a big event for NXT. I don't need to explain that to you. You already know. Started out with the War Raiders versus the Undisputed Era. Really good match. Like, probably one of the best matches on the show. Now, I like NXT shows because they cut down the number of matches. There's not 12 matches or 10 matches or even 8. There's like 5 or 6 matches, but they're really quality matches, and they use the time effectively. War Raiders and Undisputed Era, really good. Again, it was a natural progression of things to get the belt off of the Undisputed Era and put them on the War Raiders. It made sense. Honestly, I could see this being used as a chance to call up a guy like Roderick Strong or even an Adam Cole. I know he wasn't in this match, but still, I could see it as a chance to bring them up and to put the belt on the War Raiders and sort of get them ready to be called up eventually. They keep talking about how NXT will eventually become like its own brand and they won't necessarily be a call up, but so far, everyone who comes to a certain point gets called up. That's how it works. So as long as they're going to keep doing that, you always have to keep thinking about, okay, they win the belt and then they move up, and then they belt, then they move up, then the belt, then they move up. So now that the Undisputed Era, Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong are no longer champions, there's an opportunity there to move them up if they want to. I think Adam Cole, I know some people don't like Adam Cole. I think Adam Cole has potential. We'll see where he goes. Bobby Fish is really the only, honestly, and this is going back to his Ring of Honor days, he's the only one of them that I just don't see a lot of personality in. I mean, he's a good wrestler, but personality-wise, I just don't see it, so I don't know how he'll do. But then again, the main roster, it's a crapshoot. You know, some really good guys in NXT go up the main roster and get wasted. So I don't know, we'll see. The next match, of course, was Matt Riddle and Cassius Ohno. This was a match that, while better than the last one, because the last one lasted 30 seconds, it was just like a knee strike, and that was it. I know what they're doing. They're using Ohno to get Riddle over. That's sort of Ohno's place now, is to sort of be that grizzled veteran who doesn't like the new guy coming in, and then the new guy beats him. And that's fine for I think this would have been a good TV match, but for actual Takeover, I feel like it just wasted time because you knew Riddle was going to win. You knew, I mean, Ohno was going to get some shots in, but you knew Riddle was going to win, and really it didn't get him over as well as I think it would if they put him against the guy higher on the card. You know, put him on TV with Ohno, and then on Takeover, put him against someone else. Someone like, he's a babyface, so put him against Adam Cole. Have him beat Adam Cole on Takeover. That'd get him over more than beating Ohno, because of course he's going to beat Ohno. You know, I like Ohno, I like Cassius Ohno, I like Chris Hero, whatever you want to call him. I like him, but I mean, his role in the company right now is player coach. You know, it'd be the same thing if you had like a Billy Gunn there, or what they were doing with James Storm for a very little bit. He was in there to make other guys look good and make him work. He's always going to, you know, he'll have a job, but he's not going to be the next star. Cassius Ohno isn't going to be main eventing anytime soon because that's not his role. So having Matt Riddle go over him really didn't accomplish a whole lot, or accomplish as much as they wanted it to, let's put it that way. Then the next match was Bianca Belair and Shayna Baszler. I like Shayna Baszler. I think Shayna Baszler has that personality, she has that look. She looks unlike anything that's in NXT or WWE right now. I mean, she's someone you could bring up to the main roster. I mean, again, I'm not one of her trainers, so I don't know what she's fundamentally, what she's missing or whatever. But as a fan, I think you could bring her up to the main roster when they do eventually. She doesn't look like anyone else there. She has a unique look, she has a unique personality, and I think she'd fit in really as her own entity. And I think that's good. Bianca Belair, on the other hand, I don't get it. Like, I know NXT, again, they have this factory. They're creating talent, they're creating people, bringing them up, putting them on TV, and then putting them up to the main roster. There's Asuka and Ember Moon and all these different people. And I know this, and before that, of course, it was Bayley, Sasha Banks. I mean, the crux of their women's division right now, Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, all these different people were starting NXT. They build them up and then they bring them up. They build them up, then they bring them up. And I know that. And right now, it looks like they're trying to do that with Bianca Belair, but I'm just not convinced. And the thing was, later I found out about the pre-show, which I didn't watch because I was somewhere else and I got there late, and then I watched the show. But I didn't watch the pre-show, and I guess on Sam Roberts on the pre-show, because he's independent, he doesn't work for WWE, he's just a guy who does the pre-shows. He said he thought it would be a good TV match, but not a good Takeover match. Like, she's just not ready. And I know the company's going to cover their ass and go, oh, blah, 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 because that's what the company's doing. But he's right. And I actually watched the match. I didn't care for it. And then I heard about Sam Roberts' comment. So it wasn't even that it tainted what I said. I personally didn't like the match to begin with. And then later I was like, oh yeah, Sam Roberts thought the same thing I did. Oh, yeah, she isn't. And I don't know. I know they're trying to do something different with the gimmick, but the hair thing, I'm not buying it. I'm sorry. I don't care unless you have a rock in the end of your ponytail. I don't think slapping someone with your hair is going to do a lot of damage. Now, of course, someone's going to come along with like a Fabio string, you know, a Fabio lock of hair and and bitch slap me or something. But honestly, outside of a very hard strike from a very strong person, I don't see hair, how braided, I don't care. I don't see it as a good offensive move. I don't see it as this big thing they're trying to make it into, and they're giving her all these nicknames, and I just don't think she's ready. Will she be ready one day? Maybe. I don't think she's ready now. So it concerns me that they're pushing her because that's going to get her to, bring her up and then eventually bring her to the main roster. I hope they wait about a long time for that. I was about to say 6 months or a year, but I don't know. I hope they wait and they establish them, because I don't think she's as over as Bayley or Sasha Banks were when they got called up. I don't think she's near as over as Asuka or even Ember Moon. I don't think she's as over as that. So to me, it's like if April comes and they bring her in the day after WrestleMania, like they tend to do a lot, if they do, they're making a mistake. But then again, I think the same thing about Lacey Evans. They just brought Lacey Evans up. She was in the Women's Rumble, which I'm going to get to on this show too. I don't think Lacey Evans is ready. And of course, I'm not in charge and I'm just a fan. But to me, I saw her on TV and I saw her in the Rumble, and I don't think she's ready. I think they're just bringing her up there a little too early, and we'll see how she does. But to me, she just sort of blends in. I mean, she's got a little bit of a different look, but beyond that, I just don't think they're ready. I think the Iconics are ready. The Iconics did really well, and bringing them up when they did, it worked out. But I just think that sometimes they bring them in a little too early because they just want something new. Here's a new toy. Here's something new, and it's new. But if you don't have anything to build it with, they're gonna fail. So I hope they take time with Bianca Belair, and it might work. But right now, I just think it's a little too early. Then we get to Johnny Gargano and Ricochet. Really good match. Told a really good story. The story about Johnny Gargano sort of turning to the dark side, and Ricochet. I like the talk. These two both started in the Indies and worked each other in places like PWG for years. And I like the story that they're telling with Ricochet, being like, this isn't the guy I know. This isn't the Johnny Gargano that I know. This isn't the guy I met and did the Indies with and all this stuff. And Gargano's proving that he's right. He's not that guy. But he's still he's hitting these moves, and he's just violent, and he's turning to that dark side. And I think that's very good. And they're sort of teasing this sort of re-emergence, I guess, this constitution. I'm using giant words for no reason. But this getting back together with Tommaso Ciampa. I like that. Again, that's storytelling. It's subtle storytelling, but it's subtle storytelling that's not done on TV anymore. It's not done on WWE because it's just they just don't give you time. It's Crash TV, boom, 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 angle. Okay, we got to get to the next pay-per-view. Takeover has enough time to where they can build an angle, so that the time the next Takeover comes around, there's an opportunity to push it to where maybe the next one they're a little closer. Maybe they're actually in a tag match. You don't know how they're going to work together, being Gargano and Ciampa. I don't know, but it'd be pretty cool to see. So I like that. And then, of course, the main event is, of course, Tommaso Ciampa and Aleister Black. Very good match. Very hard strike. And honestly, I liked it because it was one of those matches where you didn't know who the winner was going to be. You legit didn't know. And I think that's great because a lot of times in the main events, even WWE, you know who's going to win, or at least you have an inkling of who you think is going to win. Anytime Brock Lesnar's in the ring, there's a 90% chance he's going to win. Unless it's WrestleMania, there's a 90% chance. You just know it. That's just how it works. You're like, oh, okay, well, Brock is going to... It's just a matter of how he's going to win, or how decent the match is going to be before he wins. Tommaso Ciampa and Aleister Black, this was the kind of thing where I like Ciampa as champion. That's a weird thing to say, Ciampa champion. I like that, but putting the belt back on Aleister Black wouldn't be bad, and it would advance the feud a little bit more, but then Ciampa wins. Ciampa wins, and it did really well, a really good match. And then they end the show with that image of Ciampa holding the NXT title, and Johnny Gargano standing next to him, who is ostensibly still his enemy from the betrayal from a long time ago when their feud and all these things, but has sort of turned to the dark side himself, holding the North American title, raising it up. So you have that image. Again, that's an image to end the show with, and it's a really great image. So all in all, you had two title changes. The War Raiders won the tag belts, and Johnny Gargano wins the North American title. Ciampa retains. Riddle wins, of course, and Shayna Baszler wins and retains her title. And Bianca Belair, I just don't think she's ready, and that's just my opinion. But overall, great show. Not the best takeover I've ever seen. I've seen a lot better. And again, they had a thing with Velveteen Dream, who won't work for the company, but he's a straight babyface, you know what I mean? But he won't work for him. He's too good. So he shows up with a woman on each arm, and then they just show him sitting in the front row or something. Like, that was his entire involvement for the whole show. And then I guess after the show, they did a pull apart with Velveteen Dream, Ricochet, and I think it was Aleister Black. And then it was Ciampa, Gargano, and I don't know, I think it was Cole. I don't know who the third guy was. Whatever. There was a pull apart and this whole thing. And they tried to, at first it seemed like they were trying to make it like a shoot. Like, oh, there's some fan footage at an awkward angle and all these things. And then WWE released the footage of them on the stage and then backstage doing it. So really not much of a, ooh, it's a shoot. It's not a shoot. But it's a good angle. It said it'll lead to some 6-man tags and we'll see. And again, hopefully it advances this Gargano and Ciampa thing. So that's my review of TakeOver. Again, take it for what you will. May not like it. May think I'm an idiot. And if you do, join the club. So, yeah. Elias turned heel again. Why? Who knows? It's Newsflash. WWE has recently announced the signing of Impact Wrestling talent Sanjay Dutt and Abyss, presumably to be on the creative team. This is in addition to AJ Styles, EC3, Bobby Lashley, Bobby Roode, TJP, Mike Kanellis, Drew McIntyre, Jeff Jarrett, and Jeremy Borash. They plan on hiring Jerry the Popcorn Guy just to make sure they get everyone. Hideo Itami was given his release by WWE, ending his time with the company. He injured his shoulder while signing the paperwork. Jack Swagger won his Bellator debut, defeating JW Kaiser in the first round. He has a 1-0 record, and CM Punk already hates him. Akam from the Authors of Pain recently underwent knee surgery and will be out of action until mid-March. This alerted Vince McMahon, who just now realized there were 2 of them. He still thinks the Usos are the same guy running back and forth really quickly. This just in, Alicia Fox has been working for WWE for 11 years. Just had to say that out loud. Well, that's going to do it for this time. Let's get back to the show. Now on to the Rumble itself. The beginning match, Asuka defeated Becky Lynch in a really good match. I think it was a really good way to do it. It didn't make Becky look weak, but it made Asuka look strong enough to beat Becky. And it sets up where Asuka can defend the SmackDown Women's title at WrestleMania and still be a viable threat. And Becky, of course, would go on to, spoiler alert, do something later in the night, which was just as big. In the continuing era of what the hell's going on here, Miz and Shane McMahon defeated The Bar for the SmackDown Tag Team titles. Now, I don't know what the point of... I've understood the point of bringing Shane McMahon back as a character. I get that. But bringing him back, put him with The Miz, okay, sure. Sort of seemed like a weird combination. And having them defeat The Bar when there's other tag teams like Gallows and Anderson and the Usos and the New Day in the tag division. So now they're going to run... What are they going to do? They're going to put them with The Bar again and beat them again and just completely destroy them? Or are they going to run them against the new teams and have... You have this new combination of The Miz and Shane McMahon. Like, don't get me wrong, the SmackDown tag division has been really 3 teams forever now. It's been The Bar, New Day, and the Usos. I mean, that sort of went forever, and I get that, but now it's like, okay, so you're going to throw in Shane McMahon and The Miz. Okay, then what? Am I supposed to believe that Shane McMahon at, 50 years old is going to be a viable champion for a strong period of time going into WrestleMania? Shane McMahon is going to defend the tag titles with Miz going into WrestleMania at his, late 40s, early 50s? I'm sorry. This is makes a little more sense than when Braun Strowman won it with a 10-year-old, but that's not saying a whole lot. That's really a logical jump, and now we're like, oh, this is a little better. Well, that's not saying a whole lot. No, is it? Anyway, the match itself was all right. Shane McMahon to this day cannot throw a punch to save his life. He's been in the business his entire life, and at some point you think someone would be able to pull him aside and teach him how to throw a punch, but no. Still throws the most god-awful punches. A drunk, one-handed pirate would be able to throw a better punch to Shane McMahon on a good day. I just don't get it. Then, of course, back to the women's match. Ronda Rousey defended the WWE Women's Championship on Raw against Sasha Banks, and this was a given. You knew who was going to win on this. I mean, it's good to have Sasha Banks to be in that position and to make that kind of money on a pay-per-view match, but the reality is you knew Ronda Rousey was going to win. It was just a matter of how. So, I mean, there's really no surprise here. It wasn't a bad match. There just wasn't really any surprises here either. So that happened. Then the Women's Rumble. Now, the Women's Rumble I actually liked this year. I'll go ahead and say it. I like the Women's Rumble this year better than like the men's. There were some surprises. They brought in some NXT, Io Shirai and Kairi Sane. They brought in Lacey Evans, who they had just called up, and there was enough surprises. They didn't really go back to the Molly Hollies and the Litas like they've done in years past. They're bringing in people that were from NXT, so they're the next generation of people that aren't on the main roster yet, but I get a little nod. I like that. The finish came, or close to the finish, I guess, came when Lana, who had been attacked earlier, came out and was unable to get in the ring, and that led to Becky Lynch coming out and talking to Finlay, and Finlay apparently was the sheriff in all this, and he said she could, and she gets in the ring and wins the whole thing, which honestly was the best option they had. I mean, there's nothing against anyone else in the ring, but if you looked at that roster and looked at who would be the best one with the most momentum to go forward into WrestleMania with a title shot, well, it's Becky Lynch. Her losing to Asuka, like I said, the way it worked out, it didn't hurt anybody the way she lost. It didn't hurt her and made Asuka still look viable, but it gave her an opportunity to then go and win the Rumble, and now she's obviously going to go after Ronda Rousey. I mean, you knew that from the minute it happened, because why would she just go back after Asuka? It makes no sense. And you have that match that never got to happen because Nia Jax punches people in the face like she's trying to win an MMA fight, and so it was a good idea for how they did it. I liked it. So again, I'll go on the record and say I like the women's Rumble better than the men's, and I'll get to the men's and I'll explain why I necessarily didn't like it as much. Daniel Bryan beat AJ Styles for the SmackDown World Title. I don't know what they're called, WWE Championship. They're all the WWE Championship if you want to get technical, but he wins. And really, the big story on this is it was an okay match, but the big story on this is what happened afterwards. Not that night, but of course the next week. Eric Rowan became the muscle for Daniel Bryan because, you know, they have matching beards, and he introduced this new belt that looks like it should be on sale at Pottery Barn with rhinestones and wood paneling, and it looks, oh my god, it looks gaudy and it looks horrible, but again, this is a business that's had a spinner belt for how many years, so, you know, it's all in relative, but it's good for the character. The hemp belt, the actual hemp about it, the wood paneling, the whole thing, it works for the gimmick, but the minute he loses that title, it's going to go back to the regular one, and it should. But for this, it's like that Smoking Skull belt for Steve Austin. It made sense to the gimmick for him to have his own title belt, so this is another one where it actually makes sense. I don't like the idea that people just randomly have their own title belts. To me, it has to make sense. This makes sense. So again, nothing against the match. If you looked at Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles going back to Ring of Honor back in 2003, 2004, they were having great matches then. I don't think they've ever had a bad match, so to speak, especially not one on TV. So going into it, you knew they were going to have a good match. Was it going to be the greatest match ever? Well, I don't think it was. It was a good match. But to me, more of what happened, it advanced the Daniel Bryan character and it's leading into WrestleMania, which is, I think, done really well. Brock Lesnar, of course, defeated Finn Balor. What do you say about this? After all the build-up, after all this thing of switching Braun Strowman out and putting Finn Balor in, and all of this stuff that they've done, of course, Brock Lesnar, after all the build-up, Brock Lesnar still wins, and he wins in 8 minutes, 40 seconds. After all that, pay-per-view caliber match, you make this big deal of Finn Balor being a viable threat for Brock Lesnar, which is, you know, people could say it's a little bit of a stretch, but, you know, it is what it is, and the way they did was nice, and he beats him in 8 minutes and 40 seconds. That's a TV match. I mean, that really is. That's a TV match. Brock must have been lazy that night and just like, you know, under 10 minutes, let's move on with our lives. So Finn Balor, after all that, loses in under 10 minutes on pay-per-view for the world title. So that's it. That's his push. I mean, he clearly didn't win the Rumble, but what are they going to do with him? Hey, the last time you faced him, you lost in 10 minutes. You lost in under 10 minutes. Under 9 minutes for crying out loud. So what do you do after that? I don't know. So that right there pushed him back down. It's not that Finn Balor lost, but it's like the amount of time. It was under 10 minutes. He lost. So really, how viable a threat could he be in the future? It's one thing to build a guy as like, okay, this is rematch. This is rematch for the title he never lost because he screwed up his shoulder in the first match and all these things. And then the rematch and he loses in under 10 minutes. Okay, that's it. There's the build. It's over. That's it. I mean, that's what they did with it. And so this match was blah. I mean, this was bad. You know, Brock gave Finn Balor a lot of stuff. He got a lot of spots in, don't get me wrong, but as far as the actual match for 8 minutes and 40 seconds, nothing happened. Nothing happened of note, and nothing. I didn't think Balor was gonna win, but I thought he'd at least lose in 15 minutes, 20 minutes maybe. He'd get a little time to make him look like a threat. He didn't. He got a mid-of-the-road TV match on pay-per-view. But then again, that's what Brock Lesnar does. It's Suplex City. Suplex, finish, cash his check, go home to his leather-faced wife, and here we are. So, and if you don't, and if, like, as far as that description of the match, take this description, listen to it 6 months from now. It's gonna be the same thing. Replace Finn Balor with whoever the hell they put him against, and honestly, 9 times out of 10, it's gonna be the same description. So, because that's a Brock Lesnar match. He spends more time signing his name on the check than he does thinking about the match he's gonna have. And that's it. He's lazy. That's it. And he's a big, scary, giant man who could rip apart a grizzly bear if he saw the need. But reality, as a fan, he's just boring. And I'm over it. I'm over the thing he came back in, 2012, 2011? We're looking at close to a decade. I'm tired of this. I'm just tired of it. So the day he finally does leave will be a day I will actually cheer, because that means we won't have main events like this of a world champion who is made to look like a beast who destroys everything in under 10 minutes and then goes home for 3 months. You know, at least this time it won't be for 3 months because he has WrestleMania coming up. So they're actually going to use him for the next couple months to put him on TV, to put him on TV to get him to WrestleMania so they can actually make some money for everyone else, not just him. him and his Jimmy John shorts ass. So take that for what you will. Then it was time for the main event, the Men's Rumble. Now, we started out with Elias, who I guess I read something where apparently he made a crack up at the Arizona Diamondbacks, and that was supposed to be his heel turn again. I don't know what that's about. Like, he was a heel and he got over really big, and they when Roman Reigns left, they panicked and started changing some people around, and they made Elias a face, which was really a smart move, honestly. And now I guess he made this crack about the Diamondbacks, destroying or making fun of the home team, I guess, and that was his heel turn. And then number 2 with an actual surprise was Jeff Jarrett, who had not wrestled for the company in any capacity since 1999. So like 20 years. I mean, not almost 20, because it was like September of 99. So like almost 20 years, 19 and some change. This guy had not wrestled for WWE in any capacity. He'd done the Hall of Fame, but he'd never actually been in the ring. And he comes in for the Rumble, and it was a nice little spot, and they did the thing. And Elias, of course, turns on Jarrett, hits him with the guitar and throws him out. I mean, it was better than what could have been, because if you'd done this spot 10 years ago, it would have been, like Road Dogg and Honky Tonk Man. And good God, no one needs to see the Honky Tonk Man ever again. Like, I'm pretty sure his family is like, when he pulls into the driveway, they're like, oh, him again. So no one needs to see that. Then beyond that, outside of the Jeff Jarrett thing, it was pretty standard by the numbers. Guys came in, guys came out. They made a thing with they made a point of constantly mentioning the Greatest Royal Rumble with Titus O'Neil and his slide into the ropes. They showed the pre-show, I guess. They made a point of mentioning it. So when he comes out. I thought this was actually really smart. He comes out and he stops right before, like, he slows himself down so it doesn't happen. And then Curt Hawkins. That's what it was. Curt Hawkins was underneath the ring. So Titus O'Neil purposely goes under the ring to get Curt Hawkins. They both come out the other side. Curt Hawkins slides in the ring. Titus O'Neil slides in the ring. And then he's immediately eliminated. Titus O'Neil is immediately eliminated. So it was a nice little thing. It was like a Santino gimmick. It was a little thing you could do. Like I said, you don't think Titus O'Neil is going to win. You didn't think Santino was going to win. But those little things make it a little interesting. I think I like those. This year, they overdid it with the Kofi Kingston almost getting eliminated thing. Like, every year there's this gimmick of whether he's going to get how. It's not a matter of if he's going to get eliminated, it's how, and how he's going to avoid it. That's the big thing. It was like years ago with the Paul London when he took the clothesline and just did the complete flip. It wasn't that he got eliminated. Of course he wasn't going to win. It was how he got eliminated. With Kofi Kingston, it's the first time they try to eliminate him, how he's going to avoid it. Now, they did this in the Women's Rumble too. They had Naomi do the spot, or the Jeff Hardy / Kofi Kingston spot, where he ends up on the guardrail. She went up a guardrail, walked it, and then dove from the guardrail onto the steps. Okay, fine. Good job, but fine. Then they did the other with Castano, I think it was, where she did like a handstand and then walked up to the ring post, hooked her legs around the ring post, and got up. That was different. I'll give her that, and it was different. And honestly, if they had only done those two, I wouldn't have minded. Because I'm like, whatever, that's fine. Then they decided that Kofi was going to get 2 in the Rumble itself, in the Men's Rumble. So he did the one where they do the cameras a certain way, and I know they do on purpose, but he went out and it from the angle, even from the angle they gave, it looked like he was out anyway. But he hooked his ankles, basically hooked his shins and ankles around the end of the apron, where the apron hits the mat, and then rolled to the corner. All right, it's different, fine. And then the second one, he lands on Xavier Woods, and he does like a weird crab walk thing back to the steps. And again, that's fine. So that now tonight, this one little thing, once a year you get this little moment. They've done 4. They've done 4 in one night, and one guy did the thing twice. And to me, that's like, okay, now you've cheapened it. It's like when they first come up with a new concept, and when you first do it, you see it once, twice a year, and then you just start doing it every time you get a chance. It's every week. It's like Hell in a Cell. Hell in a Cell came in Bad Blood, 1997, October of 97, and it was fine. And then they started doing it, and then they did the first one, and then they did the second one randomly. And they did, the first couple of years, there was like 1 or 2 a year. All right, that's fine. And then it became like its own pay-per-view. Then it was like, let's do it. Let's just do it to do it. And Elimination Chamber, same deal. You saw it once or twice a year. And then it was like, screw it. So they started doing it all the time. So then they had their own pay-per-view. So at one point with the quote-unquote ECW roster, there was an ECW Elimination Chamber, a Raw Elimination Chamber, a SmackDown. So they would have 3. They'd have 3 on a pay-per-view. Well, then it's not special anymore. And so, like, they get an idea and they just run it into the ground, and then it becomes not special anymore. That's what they're doing with these quasi-eliminations, where they don't do it. And it used to be, like, simple, like the flip over, like the skin the cat deal Shawn Michaels used to do. 1 foot dangling, and then he comes back in the ring. Or, you know, you think the guy's, something happens, but he goes to the middle rope, but he's fine. He slides back in. This is like these creative things, but it's like, it's one thing when it's Kofi Kingston once a year. Now it's like, okay, this one show happened 4 times. I think they killed it. Honestly, I hope even Kofi next year. I just hope they don't do it. Or at least have Kofi do it once. Do one of those and move on with your life, because overdoing it just kills it. So that's my opinion. Of course, I think the winner was great. I can't, I mean, like I said, I think it was kind of boring. Not a lot of surprises. They overdid the almost eliminated stuff, but it was pretty boring. No real surprise. I remember the times where there were surprises, you know, occasionally, and sometimes it was simple. You'd get one of the headhunters or Dick Murdoch, Dory Funk Jr. You get a random guy who's not even contracted to him would just come out, and you know they're not gonna win. Dory Funk Jr. wasn't gonna win, but it was just good to see somebody who's not necessarily all the time. I mean, they could have replaced Kurt Hawkins. I mean, Kurt Hawkins was never gonna, you know, they could have replaced him with somebody. They could have done these little spots, whatever, but they didn't. But it was pretty standard. And it was the same thing last year. It was pretty boring. Really nothing to it. This year, but they had the right winner. You know, the natural progression of things was Seth Rollins winning. Seth Rollins had just come off the angle with Dean Ambrose. It's the natural progression of things, and honestly what they're going to do, I think they're going to do, and I hope they do, is they're going to have Rollins go to WrestleMania, take out Lesnar, and have Rollins legitimately beat Lesnar. Because if you listen to that crowd, when he won, and really on a weekly basis, Seth Rollins is what they wanted Roman Reigns to be. He's that guy that has the crowd behind him. He can work great matches. I'm not knocking Roman Reigns. I don't hate Roman Reigns, but they were pushing Roman Reigns down with throat, and Rollins was like the golden boy as far as the heel when he joined the Authority, and then he got injured, and then they were sort of pushing him. But now that he's a babyface, and he's a natural babyface, he can go out there, and then he faces off, and then put the Shield back together, and then Roman goes out, and Dean Ambrose turns on him, and he's finished the angle with Ambrose, and of course Ambrose is leaving, as it seems. Believe it when the ink is dry. But now you have a guy who they naturally like, they naturally care about, they naturally cheer. Put him against Lesnar, have him beat Lesnar. I'm not, you know, I personally hope Lesnar don't come back, but of course he will. They'll re-sign him to some god-awful contract, only because all Brock Lesnar has to do is make a phone call to Cody Rhodes and pretend like he wants to go All Elite Wrestling, or pretend he wants to go to UFC full-time when he can pass a drug test, and Vince McMahon will offer him part of Titan Towers and his firstborn son. You know, he'll do it. Like, he'll literally do it just to keep Brock Lesnar, because of this supposed star power he has. So, will he go away? I don't think he will. But I hope at least in the short term, Seth Rollins beats him, and we get a chance of seeing Seth Rollins as a babyface with at least a title reign that goes a few months. To let him be the strong babyface champion and see how he does with it, instead of being the heel that got injured so quickly. See what Seth Rollins would look like as a babyface champion for at least, like I said, at least a few months, and see how he runs during the summer at the very minimum. So that's my opinion. You know, they don't pay me to think. Matter of fact, they don't pay me at all. So good for them. But that's my opinion. Just going to close it out. Thank you guys. This has been actually a year for this show. My first show was a show called Royal Ramblings. It was talking about the Rumble last year and my opinions on that, and I've been doing this now for a year. It hasn't been every week, you know, real life gets in the way, holidays, whatnot, I forget. Things happen, but for people that are listening, wherever you are, thank you for listening for the past year, for, you know, a guy just starting out, just doing new stuff, and, you know, trying to talk about the crazy world of professional wrestling. Next episode, I'm probably going to get back into the nostalgia a bit, talking about the same stuff, like the actual current thing is, in some way, it's a way to keep you current, I guess, but it's another way it's like everyone's doing it. I guarantee there's 50 podcasts, 50,000 maybe, that are doing the same thing, talking about the Rumble, what they thought of the Rumble, this, that, and the other. So it was something I felt compelled to do because I actually saw the event and, you know, shared my opinion on the matter. But at the same time, I mean, how many people use their time to crack on Virgil or Bastion Booger? Not many. So that's what I'm going to do with my time. I don't know what I'm going to do next week, but next time is going to be a different format. It's not going to be current events. So if you want current events, go listen to The Observer, go listen to wherever else, and I'll be over here making jokes. So until next time, my name's Dan, this is Exploder. Have a good one.